This is delightful. I'm so glad we came here. Feel those vibrations at Camp Video Games.
Howdy campers, welcome back to Camp Video Games. This is Junior Counselor Sean, and sitting over to my side, that's that boy. It's that boy.
What's up? This is Junior Camp Counselor Josh, and you know what? I wouldn't mind if we did double ply toilet paper in the Camp Counselor's Lodge.
Wait, you get toilet paper?
What, you been using leaves? You getting that itchy?
Wait, you wipe?
You what do you? I'm not shaking your hand anymore. All right, let's talk about. Let's talk about, what are we talking about? Fox in Space, episode 2,
Act 3.
He's on it.
Yeah. Okay. So in previous episodes, we have been talking about the phenomenal fan-made animation of Fox in Space, based on some company called Nintendo's Star Fox. Mm-hmm. And so far, I would say this is one of the best, game to screen adaptations that I've watched, in terms of quality and longevity. I'm a big picture. I'm a big fan of a Fox in Space. But
yeah.
I can't really list other adaptations that take the source material and refine it in such a way that it's a completely grown up, mature, thoughtful, dramatic, poignantly humanistic piece of art.
Yeah.
And that we're talking about talking animals flying jets.
Yeah. This is a good opportunity to think about this show, Camp Video Games, conceptually within itself. The concept was developed by you. The idea of reviewing adaptations of things. And you sent me your college newspaper article that this week that you dug up, and I was like, "Oh, Sean's been thinking about this for a long time."
It actually shocked me when I found those articles. I was like, I'm really just a one-track mind here.
Do you remember what the date was on that? The year?
The first one was from 2009. We're recording this in 2023.
Yeah,
and in 2009, I was writing about how there's no good video game adaptations for TV or film.
And you referenced the Super Mario Brothers movie and the Mortal Kombat movies.
Yep.
And I was like, Sean's really been thinking about this. And I think I just don't really think about adaptations much because I'm of the mind of nobody's done it well. And I hope maybe we haven't blow, for lack of a better term, blown our load by doing Fox in Space as the second one we do.
No.
I can't think of a better one. I can't even think of one that I would put in my canon of content that I'm this is something I think is worth watching as a just fan of good media.
Sure. Boy, am I excited to share the itinerary with you later of what other things I've got in the pipe, because we are actually living in a golden age right now of video game adaptations. You just look at the marquee at a cinema, and you're going to see something video game related. You go onto Netflix, every other new TV show they're making is somehow video game related.
Oh, yes. Cyberpunk Edge Runners is one that I'm is outstanding. Way better than the video game was. But as we record this, the DLC Phantom Liberty just came out a week ago.
What's that?
For Cyberpunk 2077. So I'm going to explore that at some point. I don't know if because that's a big game. I don't know if we'd tackle it on Camp Video Games. It's too much work,
I think because this is, let's talk about just the future of this show.
Let's just do some shop talk since we're in it.
It's my intention to sometimes talk about these very large properties where it would, especially non-linear types of games where it's hard to really break down and have a formal conversation around it.
Right.
I think it's good for us, if especially for some reason, if there was ever an Elder Scrolls adaptation or something like that, I would not want to do I would not want to summarize my Skyrim gaming,
right?
Because
Cyberpunk is one of those games that even if you just stick to the main scenario, you and I would play a different game.
Yes, exactly. And so I think with those types of properties, it'd be nice to just do a one-off where we have a big conversation, we just gush about it, and we get it all out in probably like a 3-hour conversation. And because we were just talking about this, we're talking about A Fox in Space today, and the last recording session we talked for 2 hours about 23 minutes of footage of Fox in Space,
and I feel like we could do that with Cyberpunk Edge Runners if we ever get there.
I've never tried edging. Anyway, Fox in Space, episode 2, act 3. We're here. We're going to talk about the conclusion of the second part in the series. There's a third part coming out. Josh, you mentioned that you might have learned something about episode 3 and asked if I wanted to learn it. And I said yes. I just want to talk about it before we get into this.
Baby.
Or should we save that for the end?
Okay, so I'll say what happened to me. I'll say how I came about the knowledge, and then I'll let you, as we have the discussion, decide if we want to address anything I learned from it at the end. So I was just like trying to go to bed, and I have this bad habit when I go to bed of being like, I should just read until I'm sleepy.
Yeah.
But my dopamine fix is like, or I can just watch one more YouTube video. Sure. And I just like pop open YouTube, and Matthew Gafford was doing a live stream at the time.
That's the creator of A Fox in Space. He's the brains and brawn behind every aspect of the show, it seems.
So I stayed up an extra hour and a half watching it, and I learned a lot about the future of A Fox in Space. A lot.
Okay. You know what? Hold that thought. Let's save that until we're done with our talk.
Okay. So there'll be heavy spoilers before I get into any of that at the end.
Okay, cool.
So until we say heavy spoiler territory, the rest of this is just Act 3, Fox in Space.
Dope. Okay. So if you're just joining us here at Camp Video Games, we talk about video game adaptations. That's when you got something that was made on a different medium, and then you translate it to something else. If you don't know what an adaptation is. And yeah, Fox in Space, super dope. Let's get into it, Josh.
Yeah.
So Act 2 ended with Wolf stealing the asteroid cutter from Bill at the flight academy and ditching his girlfriend and young Fox McCloud in the parking lot and seemingly, exiting their lives forever. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts about just like how Wolf done them wrong? Like, it was brilliantly orchestrated.
Since I haven't re-listened to what we said last time, I don't want to be redundant. I'll just say let's move forward to Act 3 unless you have something that we didn't get to.
No, Act 3 starts with James and Peppy. They're approaching Venom, and they're doing all that like kind of flight protocol. Right,
yeah.
Like
some technobabble stuff.
Yeah,
to
just cool stuff, man. Like the cockpit of the R-Wing is so dope. It's just like okay, so playing Star Fox 64 when you go into first person mode and you've got that like pilot's perspective, and you even see Fox's reflection in the screen as you're playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's so
I haven't done
cool.
any of that yet in my playthrough.
We'll get to some Star Fox 64 next week because that's the
I
next.
still have some playthrough to do
episode.
before we record the next one.
But yeah, I had the chance to play some Star Fox 64 in between the last recording and this and today, and so it's fresh in my brain. So yeah, this is where what I referred to in the last episode. We get to see some architectural cameos. Of like the OG Super
really
Nintendo
good.
Assets, just really good,
It's cool. It establishes sort of a purpose for a lot of things that were just like, I don't know. Here's just some shapes that we can throw in your way in the original Star Fox.
Yeah. It's nice. It's bridging that gap between the source material and this adaptation. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they land, they're gonna deal with like TSA. The TSA Venom.
Yeah.
Those characters are a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about this entrance shot.
Right. So we're on Venom. They're like entering the Venom air base.
Mm-hmm. And a gate opens to allow Fox McCloud James McCloud. We're with his dad right now to enter the Venomian TSA landing, whatever we want to call this, and there's a giant banner of Andros holding a child.
Hell yeah.
And I apologize. It says, "For our planet, for their future, select Andros." And there's some semblance of election,
Yes.
question marks going on Venom, and Andros is portrayed as I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's like a real world analog of like super genius doctor to fascist dictator, I'm racking my historical brain, but I don't have anything at front of mind. And there might not be, but
I don't. My mind immediately goes to Doctor Strangelove. The old Kubrick film, where they have the former Nazi scientist who. What's the plot of that? Like they have the like.
Well, the joke is Doctor Strangelove is this is a real thing we did. Is we, and like. Some Nazis got to dodge Nuremberg trials because we went, you're actually
paperclip, I think.
I don't know. I don't know what the name is, but we were like, actually, you're kind of useful to us in regards to science and math. So Dr. Strangelove is one of those characters, and so the plot of the movie is like in this bunker situation with the Soviets. Oh, everything's doomsday. We hand over all power to this former Nazi to like tell us how we're going to survive.
Yeah. That's
a little bit analogous to Andros here, but we're going to learn more about Andros in the sort of fash dictator vibe in later scenes.
And what motivates Andros, which is the very interesting part.
Yes.
But yeah, so we just get some cool, world building. We're seeing just kind of the minutia, the stuff, the non-glamorous side of the Star Fox universe.
It's also like that poster is like your first sign, like, oh, Venom's not just this like evil gas orb, of doom. Like you think of like Mordor, For sure. It's like this is like a lived on planet.
I would like to believe that the events of Star Fox, like the video game as we've played it since 1997, that is Cornerian propaganda, where General Pepper's the good guy, Andros is the bad guy, and everything is black and white. There's no room for subtlety or for any shades of good and bad. And Venom.
Of course, that's a very Nintendo story to tell. Yeah, of
course.
Right.
So we meet these TSA agents. There's like one's a lizard and the other one is something else. But they're like hassling James over his slingshot ammunition, right? And he says that it's for like micro juggling, which is like a technique. I think that's what David Bowie's doing with the crystal balls in Labyrinth.
That's kind of what I think.
That's what I thought too, right? Where like you've got like some balls in your hand and like you're able to like
circulate them fluidly.
Yeah. You use your fingers to like make them spin around in your hand in like a nice, very satisfying way. But they're not buying it. Like, one of them isn't buying it. There seems to be like an antagonist and like, the hyena, he's given James a hard time over it. Where there's a lizard who's more just like, just let him go.
Let him have his marbles.
What's this guy gonna do with some marbles, man? Like, what's the deal here? I don't understand this little back and forth they have about a flower pot. I mean, I get it. Is that like there seems to be some bad blood because like the lizard's mother gave the hyena a flower pot, and there's like bad blood because he's just using it as an ashtray instead of growing flowers in it. But I'm just like, wait, what's this relationship? Like if my mom gave my coworker a gift, I'd be like, Mom, what are you doing with my coworker? Like, I don't know if they're just like implying that also like maybe this guy's banging the other guy's mom or something.
Yeah. I took this whole scene as strictly like world building.
Yeah.
Doing that thing we were just saying of stripping back your understanding of Star Fox canonically as Nintendo wrote it, of like, ooh, yeah, Venom's just this evil ball of gas that's uninhabitable doom where the evil monkey lives.
So you're saying that there's like great people on all sides.
There are good people on both sides, I said.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like these are just some motherfuckers who've got a job to
Yeah.
do, and they have history together. They do this day in and day out, so they've got, you know, just little bullshit pet peeves caught up between each other, so that you build some sense of like, not necessarily like empathy to maybe towards the day-to-day Venomian, you know, that it is just building the shades of gray, that like, oh, this isn't just a singular orangutan looming over a planet and dominating the galaxy from just evil, for
everyone
quote
gets caught
unquote
up
evil.
in this.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
And there's other little details that sort of help build a narrative of this is like a little bit like, I don't know, east of the Berlin Wall, but also a little bit American, because like the way they portray TSA is like there's background posters of, and it's just like, that's like, it's kind of like if you see something, say something. I don't know what he wrote on the posters exactly, but that type of thing, just like surveillance, security, state, security theater happens here in this world the way it happens in our world in the United States.
Yeah, for sure.
Where it's like, oh yeah, you guys are free, you know?
Oh yeah, no, everything's fine here in America.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. James, he does not get to keep his marbles. What
Poor
a
guy.
shame. And you know what? He lost his marbles.
Yeah, there's a fun sort of symbolism there of like going to Venom made him lose his marbles.
Well, it should be said that like leading up to this mission, like Peppy has no idea what they're doing going to Venom. And like James has a better idea, especially after he hears that their informant Koba he quote unquote found them. Which is like that's where James was like, oh, okay, this is actually important, and we'll get into what that is that he found soon. But James, like for all intents and purposes, this like James probably saw this as a suicide mission. It was like how I put it the last time, and like he tried to give Peppy a way out, but it's just kind of like, ugh, like yeah. I think there must be some like that has to be like. Because canonically, I don't think James is missing a hand or uses his slingshot in Star Fox. Because he just really appears to us as a ghost in Star Fox 64, and he's mentioned in the title crawl. But like, this is all manufactured by Gafford, I assume. And if he literally set this all up just so it could be like, and that's when James lost his marbles. Like I wouldn't put that past him because he's that kind of comedian. Like where it's like, it's not the punchline, it's that he's telling a joke. That's the funny part.
Right. And it's, again, the way I see script analysis is like, that's what's on the page.
Yeah.
It's his marbles are physically taken away from him. If you take it a step further to the metaphor, if he metaphorically is like, uh-oh, this is when he's lost it, then that's true.
Yeah.
You know, like if that's how you see it, it's true.
For sure. So this is not just James and Peppy who are on Venom on behalf of Corneria. They're there to meet with their third team member, Pigma Dangar.
Yeah.
And it seems like, he didn't travel there with them. They're going to like an enemy planet to meet him, and he's keeping them waiting. And Peppy's just like who are we working with? James is like, it's Pigma, and he's like, ugh, don't care for him, but as long as he's got our backs, I'll keep it to myself. Kind of that thing.
Wonderful entrance.
Yeah.
Then that after that line, Pigma just walks in, I think smoking a cigarette, and is just like, that's fair.
That's a good Pigma voice too. I guarantee Pigma's from New Jersey.
Yeah. Pigma is very much a character from The Sopranos.
Yeah. Pigma. Yeah. So
and I love him for
that's fair. Everybody knows I'm an asshole. I was born this way.
Right.
It's just
great.
so cool. Like he's at peace with being an asshole, and like that's a strong character. Just like this pig smoking a cigar, just like, ugh, like. I don't know. I mean, I know he's a pig, but like, I guarantee he eats too much bacon. I don't know. I don't,
You know that man is just stress eating cured meats over his counter at home.
Gabagool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're taking this train, right? And this train where they're supposed to meet the informant, it's the only train on Venom that has no security like surveillance on it. So it's like the last shady place on Venom, I guess, where you could do some some stuff under the radar from Big Brother watching you. And they're watching, like, it seems like it's like this is some state propaganda TV that they're watching, or it's like a talk show, and woman's interviewing Andros about why he's like qualified to be Venom's premier.
Yeah, and we should note the Pigma gives a real quick expository of like, yeah, there's an election, but it's basically fake.
Yeah, that's
right
true.
Before
that's
we cut over to this election coverage on the TV.
Yeah. And like Andros is just like, he is in control of the audience. Like he basically just says, he's even quoting himself from Star Fox 64. If you get the true ending when you fight his brain, Andros says, "Only I have the brains to rule Lilat," and he says that, but like as like a politician running for office. It's brilliant. This is this type of shit where it's like they're taking source material and they're making it work through our modern view.
Yeah, he's saying
sick children's lives. Only I'm saving.
Only I can bring the jobs is a good good fash line. This is really like delicate stuff because like I don't know if at this point we really see it yet, but by the end of the episode, I think we're given enough precedent that it's like he might not be entirely wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's like some weird, scary, delicate stuff to mess with.
Yeah. Oh no, Mussolini had some great points.
Right.
Yeah. I say that with so much sarcasm.
Yeah. Well, and like a lot of the sort of like in this version of fascism in this show, it's stripped of all of like the real world connection we would make of like nationalism, ethno-state, is stripped from it so that it can be a little more ambiguous without it being like, wow, the guy who made this is a total like psycho.
Yeah. It's interesting too because this is Venom. I don't know if the original inhabitants of Venom were there before Andros was exiled to Venom, or if his arrival there kind of he created a refugee outpost of the Lilat system. It's kind of vague and unclear, but it's only been a few years, I think, since Andros was exiled.
I think it's like 5 years is said.
Yeah,
either
that sounds about right.
In this show or in Star Fox 64.
Sure. And I love that they like Gafford just took that little title crawl that takes like 60 seconds, and he fleshed out every single detail and like he just put a little zhuzh on every like sentence used in that, and he's created something so profoundly like different yet the same. It's a reinvention. It's a beautiful thing,
especially because if you play, we'll talk about this more in the Star Fox 64 episode, but like if you play through the game and you beat it on like easy mode, you don't get the true ending. You'll run into Star Wolf, you'll have a fight with them, but other than that, it'll be like that like opening crawl that was sort of like a prequel had nothing to do with anything.
No, not a.
And then even when it does pay off, it's not that huge.
It's true. It really sets up the fact that Pigma betrays. Pigma. It says
spoiler.
It says that in the crawl that Pigma betrays Star Fox when they go to Venom, and like watching this, like I can't imagine watching a Fox in space without playing Star Fox. That seems outside of reality.
Yeah. This is if the Star Wars prequels were done well, basically.
Oh, gosh. If only Star Wars prequels had more furries.
So yeah, that scene ends on the TV with Andros delivering his Only I have the brains
Yeah,
line.
it's sick, and the crowd goes wild. And
The crowd loves
it. The host is like, "Can everyone chill out, please? Like, everyone stop clapping," and they're just like, "Woo!" Like,
yeah, and it's really easy to like for us in our dumb American brains make like the Trump analogy.
USA,
You know,
USA.
like oh, he's like a Trump figure. You know,
Yeah, but he's not.
But it's more than that.
He's
I think.
so much smarter than Trump.
Yeah.
He's not getting caught for doing crimes out loud and in public. He's much more manipulative.
I say that to say it is more analogous to like other like fascists around the world, like in more modern times, like Bolsonaro in Brazil, but then like Mussolini and Hitler and stuff like that. Like no, it's not just this one bumbling buffoon who got a bunch of hooting chuds on his side through history. It's like this is analogous to something that's happened a lot since the early 20th century. Anyway, moving on to the next scene.
Yeah. So, they're just sitting at the train bar watching the news happen, and then Pigma he like takes a slug of whiskey, and he's like, "Wait for me here. I'm gonna go do some pig shit or something."
I'm gonna be like a pig and shit for a minute.
Pepe's.
Hold on. Time out. So for clarity, we are previewing the visuals as we go through. And this scene, I don't know if you just saw it when they go like through the tunnels and the lighting and the reflections on the characters is like that's the thing Gafford learned to do between episodes 1 and 2.
The dynamic lighting.
Yes, this dynamic lighting in Blender where
you can control the flashes of light.
Yeah, so he's doing hand-drawn characters, but like the lighting is based on a 3D space that they live and operate in. So in this scene, when you'll see them go through the tunnels and the flashes of individual lights will go by, and it's incredible for a single, singular or very small team production.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been lucky enough to like sit in like on like virtual editing sessions while like a buddy was working on some Blender stuff. And like I am not an animator, I am not an illustrator, I am not very gifted as like a digital artist, but it's like watching magic when you can create these types of effects and make it look so seamless. The visuals of A Fox in Space are just incredible. Makes it because like this is like I think every time we've talked about this I've given you an update about how many times I've watched this fucking show. And because it looks so good, there's always something new to appreciate. Like there's just like I noticed a detail I'd never noticed before last night. There was just like in the car when Fox and Farrah, or no, I'm sorry, when James and Peppy are in the car doing their dramatic talk in Act 1 or Act 2, there's a little spider that's just crawling across the car seat. That's just completely incidental. Like there's no point for it being there besides they just had fun putting it in there. But it doesn't like stand out. It doesn't draw attention away from the drama at hand. It's just like they're like, this is just really talented people having fun, like flexing their art muscles.
Yeah.
It's so good. So back on the train, James and Peppy are now they're just kind of like in this awkward place where like the guy that they don't trust is like, wait for me, I'm the one that's doing all the things that need trust here. And so they're just like stuck waiting for him. Peppy, he's like, I mean, he already like said he's like, I don't trust Pigma at all, but whatever. If he's on our team, I guess he's on our team. And James is basically just like, wait here, I'm gonna go look for our pig. And we talk about pigs a lot here on Camp Video Games. Thanks, Nintendo.
Someday we'll hit a pig-free game to talk about.
For real. What is up with Miyamoto? Must have been like bit by a pig or something when he was a kid.
Yeah, no, it's Shiggy's wife. She's like, you got to put a pig in that game.
Oh, she Paula Deen.
So
bacon makes everything better, hon.
Well, I've like listened to like there's a couple podcasts where I've heard people talk about like. I've even talked about on this podcast.
I think we talked about the fact that like Miyamoto just blames his wife for all of Nintendo's failures, basically.
No. Like he hit a point in his career where it's like I want something my wife would be into, and that was the Wii. And I've been watching Tim Rogers streams every once in a while, and now he's turned it into a running gag where she has this like Southern accent like
That's
that.
funny.
So now it's like in my brain.
Shout out Tim Rogers.
That Shiggy's wife wanted it this way.
Okay, so James, he goes to go see what's going on.
The one thing I did want to actually say is James's line is, "I'll go it alone from here."
Oh, yes. That's as if you've played Star Fox 64, you know that's what Fox says before he dives down a chasm into the depths of Venom, where he fights Ganondorf or something.
He fights some evil pig, I don't know, or a monkey, something.
But this is we're gonna meet Koba. This is the informant that kind of is responsible for bringing James and Peppy to Venom. He seemed to have stolen some classified documents, and on James's way to go meet with Koba, he walks by these like two. Are those links? Or the fascist looking?
I thought they're lemurs.
Lemurs.
Yeah, they have
lemurs.
their dress is
It's like Gestapo.
very Gestapo fascist, hard red and black.
Yeah, I hate that those colors look so good together, though. You know, like it sucked. Like, just to be frank,
But
like
what's the band that did it?
was it
like-
Anti-Flag?
No, there's like an '80s new wave band. One of the videos. Is it Eurythmics?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they are doing that. Well,
And like that's the same outfit. I'm gonna look up which song and video it is while you continue on.
Sure.
Here. I'll just note it.
so the informant, yeah, his name's Koba, and he's a marsupial of some sort. I apologize to the listeners for not having a full
we're animal racists.
breadth. I don't have a full breadth of knowledge of the biological world. So if you know what type of animal Koba is, please leave it in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe. And if you are interested in hearing even more goofball talk about video games and video game adaptations, join us over at patreon.com/campvideogames, where you can hear full commentaries of every single episode of the Legend of Zelda animated series. That's the only place where you can find it. And even more to come, because we're going to be uploading some playthroughs and some fun little side content that we're creating. And aren't we just the most creative of content creators? It's oh my God, Josh, you didn't like this video on YouTube. You need to give a thumbs up to a Fox in Space episode 2.
I'll get to it. We're using, and I might be logged into a different account than I've watched it before. I'm sure I've definitely subscribed. Anyway,
So, the Koba is I think his name's Dessler Koba, and he's I don't know if he's just exhausted from like he's like over exaggeratively like exhausted, like as he's talking to James, it's like I thought he was on heroin. Like he
does have the heroin.
He's got that nod
going.
off kind of thing going with him, and like if you've been unfortunate enough to know somebody going through a heroin, like we'll call it a spell. It's pretty recognizable, but he says that he's just exhausted because he's got these like he hands over some very interesting documents, or at least some like files like saved to a PDF. And it's
this is the whole ball game here.
This is a backstory to this backstory. So we're gonna get like quadruple backstory in this part. But it seems that Koba worked with James and Andros and Vixie, who is the now deceased. That's Fox's mother and James's wife, or I guess he's her. When a guy is that a widower if you're a dude and your partner dies?
Yeah.
But these files, there's some interesting like quick details on it. And on it says BH Portal Titania test data, and on it there's two signatures. There's you see Vixie. And she scratched out the first letters of her maiden name, which is Reynard, and then writes McLeod with a little heart next to it. So this is a newlywed Vixie who's not yet used to writing her full new legal name. But there's I wonder though if there's like ever like a love triangle dynamic between James, Vixie, and Andros. Just because they're like all scientists working on a team. And are you still looking up this fucking 80s music?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay.
I think I think I've gotten there. You just keep. This is more important. I'll get back to it.
I just want, I in my notes I wrote, is this a love? And then I just drew a Triforce because I'm still in Zelda brain. Attention Camp Video Games. This is the first episode I've recorded post beating The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and I feel like a new man right now. I'm not going to say anything else about it because I want to respect the spoilers for that game because it is a very fun experience to really have with eyes unclouded by spoilers. But these documents, this is test data from Titania BH Portal. If you played Star Fox, you know they're talking about black hole portals. And
correct.
This is where Andros gets interesting. We'll get to the what he says when he says it. But Koba, Dessler Koba, the little marsupial that hands off the info to James, he says, "You don't have any friends, Jim." Like it's a shitty thing to hear from somebody. Especially when you're when you're behind enemy lines, basically relying on your friends to keep your head above water here. It's very foreboding. And it's there's a conversation basically where Koba says to James, he's like, if you knew what Andros was up to, you would have handed this stuff over to General Pepper like from day one. And this is where James is like, I don't think you understand. I know General Pepper as much as you do. Like that would just be a lesser of two evils, basically.
Yeah.
And it's he's damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. That catch-22. So upon like handing over the docs to James, Dessler Koba he just seemingly passes out against the window of Venom after just being like, this is such an ugly planet.
Yeah.
And James is like, and dangerous. So tough.
Really beautiful sort of just the whole scene is very well acted and written. So I assumed the way I read this scene is Koba was maybe knows he was maybe somehow caught and poisoned and only had so much time left to get this to James. And he dies right here, right?
See, I see it as he has the nuclear briefcase and he is you cannot sleep if you know that you basically have what could be the end of or the saving of the world in your hands. And upon giving it to James, he's just like, whoo, that is out of my hands now. I am no longer responsible for the fate of the Lilat system. It is now in more capable hands than mine.
I still feel I don't know. I think of it again. I get analogous to the real world.
Go ahead, put your speculation trousers on.
I'm putting my speculation trousers on.
Zip.
I think of it as this is a Soviet or even still in modern Russia state where they're like, oh, we've caught you. We're not gonna gun you down in public. We're just gonna slip you some poison that will slowly kill you over the next 24 hours.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's really scary.
and make it difficult to trace back to who did it.
And so
I think that's kind of the vibe.
That's
of
interesting.
What they did to him.
I like what that brings to the story because it's basically he's like, I have no choice but to do this if I want to do the right thing with the rest of my life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he was hanging on to the last second to do I've got to get this to the guy who I know is going to get here.
So yeah, upon handing it over, that's Des. He's out, and the fascist lemurs, they show up, and we get a little shot though of Koba with his head against the window, and there's blood coming out of his mouth, and that does lend itself to your theory of him being poisoned or of him dying at that point. My first take on it was that he was biting his lip to keep from getting involved. Like, you know, like you're like where I'm trying to fake sleep so hard and I don't want to like bring any attention to myself. So I'm just like clenching and like, oh my God, I'm biting myself so hard. I'm bleeding now.
I'm going to go Occam's razor on this one. We show blood. It means, yeah.
yeah. It's interesting. So yeah, these two lemurs that are they got that I hate to say they got that sick fashion sense, and I say fash with a F.
I'm really pissed off. I couldn't remember what music video that.
It's okay. Was it Kraftwerk's?
It might be a Kraftwerk thing.
Anyway, but there's one is a mute, and the other one's like his mouthpiece, and we get some like fun so they go up to James and they're like, we've been told that you have an improvised weapon on you. Please like hand it over calmly, and like nothing will happen. And the mute lemur does some sign language to his partner, and the partner begins to be like, well, my partner says that we should, and like James cuts him off. He's like, I know what he said. And if you watch the sign language hand move, it's at one point he makes a gun finger and like does the thing where he's like basically like, I think we should just kill this fucker and take the documents and like get on with it. And I think like, you know, these guys operate as if they don't expect people to know sign language. James is that much of a super cop that he's like, you know, no, I know what he said. And like, that's like where all the pretenses are up now. Like now it's just like, yeah, I know you want to kill me and you're not going to do it. Like it's not going to happen. Oh my God. I love when a cartoon sends me to the dictionary because upon realizing that like, they're not going to get what they want from him peacefully, the talking lemur, he like brings out like what is that? Like, it's like a extendable like nightstick.
Yeah.
And he says detritus. And I was like, what's detritus? It's garbage. It's just a fun word for garbage. And so like they're about to like beat the shit out of James, and then a door opens, and then we just see Pigma Dengar, 2 shots, boom, pew, silenced pistol, the fascists die. And like staying in the shadows outside of the door, Pigma's like, come on, Jim, come on.
And there's something about the contrast of his energy, like his sort of like, I'm a outcast underground mobster, like, versus this like buttoned up fascist that like that dichotomy like makes you feel like maybe he really is on James's side if you have not read the title scroll of Star Fox 64.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll just make an editing note so that we should bleep out me saying what Pigma does, just to have a little fun with this episode. That I spoiled that like a couple of minutes ago.
What?
I say that Pigma betrays.
Oh no! Anybody who listens to this is gonna like...
disregard that editing note. So Jim goes to follow Pigma. The doors close behind Pigma after he tells him to follow him, and Jim's like kind of like reviewing his options. He realizes that the door that the fascists came through, the opposite door, is already locked, and he can't get through that way. And so he starts to follow Pigma, but then he's greeted by that hyena that Andros was talking to in the last episode we discussed.
So we talked about this a little bit last week when we were introduced to this character. That I had this read that the visor thing with like the just little dot light eyes is some indication of Andros giving him some sort of cybernetic enhancement.
I completely follow you.
And that's like what he's sort of indebted to Andros for in some way.
Andros gave him like a cybernetic upgrade.
Yeah, and this is the thing you referenced about, maybe that is the case where James gives him this, you know, sort
judo chop.
Yeah, judo chop. Like, and you assume James he's this badass guy. Like, this is probably like a move he had in his back pocket, and it does nothing.
Yeah. So the hyena is holding James by his severed arm, where the slingshot would typically be his left hand. Lack thereof. And James does this judo chop right on like the jugular, which I think would really hurt. Like, you know, like a classic judo chop is like meant to like completely like bring someone's like, I don't know. It's like a nerve ending, and like, you know, it would suck to get chopped there.
This is what my dad. This is like the most physical my dad would ever get. He'd pinch you there. If it was like, stop that behavior right now.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
be like, and then you just seize up.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm done.
It's like grabbing a cat by the scruff.
Yes, exactly. It's like, once we were too old for spanking, so that was the
Yeah. Judo pinch. So the hyena like basically is able to kidnap James, and he tells him like, Andros will speak with you now.
Yeah. We cut to him in the car, some sort of chained collar around his neck.
Yeah.
And all tied up.
So this is like, it's almost like in episode 1 we're seeing like a foreshadowing to, or this is, if we were to watch this all linearly, which with this would technically be episode 1. They're both going through the same shit. They both get captured by Andros's forces, and they're forced to speak with Andros. So like he's like sitting in the middle of the back seat with like guards on either side, and there's a hologram of Andros like speaking directly to James. And it's interesting because like this is where we get like confirmation that like James and Andros used to be like scientists on the same team, and they were working on this black hole research alongside Vixie. And this whatever we know about like what is on the documents is only really hinted at through what Andros has to say, where like he's lamenting the fact that he couldn't have had access to these test data like earlier because what's on the other side is what he says to James. He's like, and this is what I just got goosebumps again, because it's like you're being told that like, okay, if you understand like that there's a black hole in the Lilat system, what's on the other side of the black hole, Andros sees like this is what's compelling him to rise to power, I believe, is that he is terrified of what's on the other side of the black hole.
Yeah.
And he needs to get as powerful as possible so that he can answer it in the way that he sees best. Which is wonderful.
This is the interesting play with like the appeal of fascism. Like in that like all we have is Andros's word at this point.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way fascism works, is like, trust me, I've seen the other and they're fucking coming for you. But it's delivered in this way in this show that it's like, he might be right.
Yeah.
Like the tone of how it's all delivered is like, that could be the twist.
Yeah.
Of like, and you could compare this to like the original Star Wars and this is fascinating when you think of the arc of Star Wars and what it became. Is the original Star Wars is George Lucas is on record saying basically the good guys in Star Wars, your Lukes, your Hans, that's the Viet Cong.
Yeah,
the Empire
the
is
Taliban,
the US.
The freedom fighter.
Yeah, and like
which is just a polite word for terrorist.
Yeah, and like this could be kind of the same twist that he's doing here.
Yeah.
But it's coded in all these things we've seen in the past as meaning like, top down, like ethno-state, like genocidal fascism. But we're not really shown that that's for sure what's happening. We're shown like there's some corruption in the election system, but it's very murky at this point what the real politics are.
I know, because when I think about like, okay, if there's a scientist who's driven mad with fear from what he sees on the other side of a black hole, my mind goes straight Lovecraftian. Like that there's like, I mean, we know that in Star Fox, like you fight kaiju all over the place. Like, some of the end bosses are just giant alien bioweapons. And ostensibly, like Andros is building these bioweapons to fight what's on the other side of the black hole. And this is all Gafford's storytelling doing this. This is not coming from the game necessarily. He's using assets from the game and like redirecting their uses in a particular way that lends itself to this like story.
Yeah.
Which is again, please stop me if I keep just complimenting this guy. But like, I think I might be like the prime demographic for this.
Yeah.
Like just so anyway,
I want to
go.
play with another real world like analogy, like this sort of like Machiavellian quandary. Since you mentioned like, oh, Andros is a scientist, it's like a real world way you could play with this is we are living in a reality of like climate disaster oblivion that we're just like ignoring and barreling towards,
it's chill.
right? Like
It's whatever.
So like a Machiavellian thing you could play with is like if like a scientist, the group of scientists who like knew what to do rose up as like hardcore eco-fascists and took power, and they were like the ends justify the means, that like we strip away all of these little niceties that we have that are destroying the planet to save more lives in a utilitarian way down the line, is like, is that wrong?
This is the Thanos debate too. Like I haven't watched much of the new like Avengers shit, but like Thanos, as if I understand right, because I didn't even see Infinity.
That one's less sort of. It's just like, oh, he snaps his fingers and kills half the population because for some reason that makes things better. It's not that deep.
Well, I mean, think about it. No more traffic jams. Like, you get a reservation at the nicest restaurant.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like, I think, like, ideologically sometimes, like, I think in the world where I, like, a true world of equity is like, we might have to have less shit in our lives.
Oh, for sure.
Less conveniences.
It makes me think about, like...
to save more lives if we actually have, like, a human empathy and not a nationalist...
Yeah.
Like, no, we've got ours, everybody fuck off. Which is like, just by living in America, we sign on to,
This is what Star Trek does really well, where it's like, it seems like, the Federation of Planets is really just like kind of a fascist, like, monarchy, or not a monarchy, but it takes a strong hand to then have all of the countries play nice, basically, where there is no country anymore. There's just Earth, right? And like, that sounds great, but it means that the entire planet is under one like rule.
Yeah.
There's no locale, like, there's no local rulers. There's just the Federation.
Yeah.
And like, people always tout Star Trek as being like a utopian future, but it's like, it took a little bit of fascism to get to that.
But again, it's like the weird thing to play with is like, but if it brought us to post scarcity, where people are no longer fighting each other in the streets for our material needs, is that okay?
I don't know enough to be smart about this talk.
I'm just playing. I'm not advocating anything.
Wait,
I'm just playing with ideas.
Is that a huge stack of Pepe Frog memes? What is going on here?
I'm definitely not. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not down with those folks.
So we learned that Andros has officially become the premier of Venom, and it was just like a midnight selection. They were just like, yeah, you're in charge. So his rise to power is complete, and there's this great visual as they're zooming out of like, because the perspective is from the windshield looking in at the passengers of the car, and there's these like arches with like beams that are outside of the car that they're passing by to show that like parallax scroll or whatever it is, to show that they're moving. But the way that they're aligned, it looks like devil horns like appearing on Andros's head over and over again, and he's this big red floating hologram face. Like, I think it's like they're, because this is the lead character of this story talking with the lead villain, and he's really like they're playing up the devil imagery of Andros
For sure.
and it's so good because they're not saying like, oh, that Andros, he's just like the devil. It's just like the subtle
That's a bad fella.
It's just the subtle environmental, like, it could even be happenstance, like, but it works at that reading.
We also get another great sort of like, okay, more fascist imagery of the resolution of Koba. Andros says the separatists on the train, Koba, already wiped away clean. So Koba was disappeared.
So
is the term we would use for it in like Soviet fascism era.
The separatists were the lemurs. So, okay, we were talking about this earlier. they are in league with the dog general that Sonny and Sagan, the Bandicoot and Hedgehog from the last episode, they were talking to that general whose name I don't remember right now.
Yeah.
And he, I believe, is a part of the separatist movement on Venom, because not everybody wants Andros in charge. It doesn't seem to be that important to the storyline as like if we were to do an abridged discussion of what a Fox in Space is. I think you could probably just sweep the separatist discussion out of the talk.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting, it's a dissection of real world politics again, where there's a rise to power, but there's also people who are not down with the main movement, but they're not good people as a result. Like, there's still bad politicians, like, all around. Every single person that's in power right now is kind of portrayed as a shitty person. Like, General Pepper.
That's crazy. That could never happen.
No. Because there's I feel like if you elect someone, they have to do the right thing.
Yeah. No, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Everybody, when you elect somebody, they act benevolently on behalf of the people who elected them.
Well,
that's just how the world works.
They have to do the official pinky swear.
Yeah.
There's a whole...
They pinky promised all of us.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
But, Andros is trying to get James to work with him again. And it's interesting because James apparently is just the total shit. He's a top fighter pilot. He's a super cop. He's a scientist. His dick works. There's just a lot in his corner where the most powerful man in this solar system is I need you back, James. And on both sides, you got Pepper on one side and Andros on the other side, and they're both James, you're the only guy who can take care of this. It's James is just packing it.
Yeah, and he's not reacting strongly to Andros emotionally. We don't see anything on his face, and Andros says, "You and I both know." You know, none of this matters, because he's talking about uniting the Lilas system. He's like, none of that matters if we don't resume our project, referring back to the black holes, what he's seen on the other side. And it's just he delivers it with such a sincere concern.
Yeah.
And we're not showing what it is. That's oh my, I don't know. This guy might be right.
Yeah. It's really, it's just so intriguing. This is good storytelling where they're not telling you what's the problem, but they're telling you there could be a problem. And you're like, what's the problem? And you're like, wait till episode 3, perhaps.
Yeah. And let's look at the next line. You saw what was on the other side of the hole, and they know we're here. Yes. There is a they on the other side. So now, yeah, okay. Maybe he is just, there's some other, and it has shown aggression towards everything in Lilat.
At the border.
Yeah, or it's just some bullshit where he's just I see something that doesn't look like us, so now I'm going to make everybody scared of it. We don't know.
Yeah, my brain immediately goes to gigantic sci-fi monsters, but that's just because that's how my brain is
our
shaped.
sci-fi brains say
alien invasion.
Our historical brain says every time in history that's happened, it's been a lie to just take power.
Yeah, it's the reason that we're in such a bad economic state, I don't know, it's Poland's fault.
Yeah, but because this guy James, who we've been shown nothing but we should trust him, was involved and is being spoken to in such a familiar way.
He doesn't seem to be a very good dad, though.
No, but my point is just because James is being spoken to so sincerely about it, that aids the idea of oh shit, maybe he is right. Maybe there is a real threat and not some fake fascist. What's the word I'm looking for?
Smokescreen. Straw man?
Yeah, straw man, whatever. Yeah, I'm losing the actual word, but yes.
What is it? Great, both of us are doing
demagoguery is the word I'm looking for. I think, yeah.
But James, his response to Andros, giving a pretty sincere plea for his help. He says, "I'm sorry, doctor, that doesn't appeal to me." That is such a clinical way of saying fuck you. I don't know. It just seems with like with what James is going through right now, right? So he's just like he's been called back into action. He's had a stressful night. He shot some guy in the head with a slingshot already. He had to drive 4 hours to get to Venom.
It's been a lot.
And he like, he had to deal with TSA. He's got on a train. He might, whatever. Koba, with Koba, like it seems like Koba and James also had a history. Like I think he was working on the team with them as well with Andros and Vixie. But it's not totally clear. But it's not
quite as inside,
If we're to believe that like Koba just died in front of James, like that was an old colleague of his. So he's been pulled through some shit on this very hard day of his.
Yeah.
And now he's sitting in a car, getting driven to probably I don't know again. And this is where we can. Is there room in the here? Give me one of those legs of that. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. All right. Now I'm in the speculation trousers too. I'm in the left leg. You're in the right leg.
We're wearing like a 3-legged race.
Yeah.
Speculation trousers.
So wait, I forget what I was going to speculate on. He's got Pigma sitting in the car, I think. Okay, yes, I think Vixie died during probably these experiments that they were doing.
Vixie might have had a Shinji's mom experience from Evangelion. Like Vixie may have touched the other side, and not come back. Or another. This is now I'm going real niche.
Moving on.
In Xenosaga, there's these big bricks called the Zohar that are these sources of infinite power that, like, when somebody touches them, they just disappear to the other side.
Hell yeah.
This is setting up like a very similar sort of conflict to that series as well. But that's too niche. Let's go back.
I would assume that James holds Andros responsible for Vixie's death. Just pure speculation.
Mm-hmm.
And so here he is, James. He's just been double crossed by a pig who's sitting in the car with him as he's getting talked down to.
Pigs.
It's these fucking pigs, man. Man, I just think about the cop city in Atlanta. I'm just getting so angry right now.
It's always these fucking pigs over here.
Fucking pigs. He's having a bad day is what I'm really getting at. Is that James is having the worst day of his life, except for probably when he lost his wife. And just like his face, I think he completely fits the bill for the word stoic. James is a true blank-faced stoic. He's going through some tough shit and he's not giving an inch emotionally. And that's a cool, especially for, he's not even the main character of this series. He's just the main character's dad. And sure, he's been, front and center for most of this episode, but Star Fox as a series is about his son's deal. But all of this is leading up to what his son inherited in terms of the war that they're waging right now. It's really, and this is the final scene of the episode too, where we just get to see Venom unfolding in front of us as Andros is there's way bigger shit at hand than than this petty shit that we're dealing with. And it's just it's so emotionally not manipulative, but effective of just being things might be hopeless right now. I don't know how this gets better. And from what we know in the game, there's no more James. We don't know what happens to James. In the true ending, he does rescue Fox from Venom. But it's more he's more of a force ghost, the way that Obi-Wan talks to Luke.
It's definitely a force ghost situation in the game.
Although you
they're
do
totally
follow a
just
physical
aping
ship as you're you are Fox following James,
right?
And you're both in R-wings, but who knows? Maybe he's getting hallucinations from all that Mach 20 speed that he's going.
Well, I want to get back to Andros to lead into the stoicism of James.
Yeah.
That the last thing he says before we get James's response is a very sincere James, please. And then a beat before he responds.
He thought about it.
Yeah. And And
This doesn't appeal to me.
Then that's the line you mentioned earlier.
And then Andros's God, this is a cartoon monkey, and the face, like the facial expressions are so good. He's got this like look of like Andros doesn't hear the word no very often. You know what I mean? Like he's the head honcho, he's the king ape of the country, and everyone's under his thumb. And to have just some guy who is like, you know, giving him a hard time and who's like responsible for some of his like, you know, early political like difficulties, just to be like, no. Andros's face does this like thing where his like eyelids are like kind of baggy under it, but he's got this like, you know, the Kubrick stare, like talking about that.
Of course,
he's got that Kubrick stare where he's like the thousand aisle. No. Oh no, I'm doing a style bit. The thousand mile dressing.
The Thousand Island stare. Yeah.
But like Andros has that like he's like, what did you say to me? Like, But then he's like, if you won't change your mind, I'll just have to do it for you, is what he says to James. And like we're talking about these like cybernetic implants that have been done on the hyena, and like earlier when General Pepper was talking about at the very beginning of episode 2 of A Fox in Space, James and General Pepper are talking about like Andros and the what is it? General Pepper describes exiling Andros as the most politically safe thing he could have done, which is another interesting like, oh, okay, because like, you know, it's like it's not that
politically
he was disgusted.
safe for whom?
Exactly, for him to stay in power.
Yeah,
and like it's just like it's not what he believes, it's what he says he believes to the people, to the constituents. And you know, then we have just this like long moment of silence. This show is great with this. They have these like very, very poignant moments of silence where it's just the atmosphere going on and you're left to think. You just think about what's going on. Because I think if they had not included this, there's like, you know, it's probably like 30 seconds of just like a static image. And that's when, as a viewer, as an audience member, you take that silence and you go, wait, what were they just talking about? Wait, what did Andros say he saw? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then this is where like in our age of overstimulation, where I have to be like scrolling Instagram while I'm watching a movie while I'm taking a poop. Like I have to have all this stimulation just to do something. Like that lack thereof, it's like, oh yeah, like there's room to think, there's room to breathe, there's room to like come up with theories about this. It's very, very smart modern editing.
Yeah. Being willing to let silence hold in an audio-visual storytelling platform is like one of the hardest and best choices you can make. This is like from personal experience, not that I'm proclaiming to be good at this, but like doing like improv scene work, it's so hard to comfortably be in silence because you will like get in your head of like, oh, we're not doing anything. They can see me thinking, oh my God. You know, like it's such a confident move to just leave silence, extended silence in a work on the stage, on the screen, whatever, you know. It's pretty bold. Very well done. Sean's trying to make me sit in silence. I can see it. He wants me to stop talking and just see what it feels like if we let this podcast sit with dead air. And I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to talk through it. And I'm going to keep talking about how after we see the road.
So campers, I abandoned my career as a journalist this year, which was probably the best thing I've ever done in my life. So I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people. And one of the best tactics as an interviewer, if you're trying to get some insight from the person you're talking to, just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Let them keep talking. And they'll get uncomfortable
or
with the
just
silence.
A small nod.
And they will talk and talk and talk. And especially if you're doing journalistic pieces that require quotes, if you're like me and you don't want to do that much writing, just keep quoting people. Like, and you can get a lot of quotes from people if you just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
You just ask one little leading question and then stop talking. And then they'll get uncomfortable and they'll keep talking and keep talking. And sometimes they'll say the thing that they weren't trying to say at the beginning. And then they're like, oops, I just gave away a company secret. And you're like, interesting.
Just give a subtle nod.
Yes. But that's episode 2, Act 3 of A Fox in Space.
Yeah.
Now, Josh, let's talk about what you learned about episode 3 now.
Okay. So this is stuff. Something that's really interesting about this project is the degree to which he does it out in the open in front of his audience.
Yeah.
To give something to just kind of keep people tuned in. So first thing I'll say, spoiler free. And I'm trying to remember some of this from like a live stream from 2 or 3 weeks before we recorded this.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. So this one, how many years was it? 7 or 8?
Oh, between episode 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think last episode I erroneously said 8 years, but I believe it's closer to 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. So he said he feels confident at this point 3 years.
Okay.
Till the next one.
Okay.
Okay. So
Do you want to get into spoilers now?
do you want spoilers?
I would love to. I mean, because if he's out in the open saying it, like, here's my take on spoilers. I feel with certain things, like, okay, going back to like Tears of the Kingdom, that was the only game in the past 10 years that I've given any like sort of fuck about spoilers, because for the most part, if it's an interesting story and you already know the end of it, if it's genuinely interesting, it's like everyone thinks that like The Empire Strikes Back was like dumb until Vader said, "I am your father." Like, that's just not the case, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a great little, like, it's like a cherry on top, but it's like the entire movie's incredible.
It's not the thing. Yeah.
It's not the only good thing about it. So that's how I feel about spoilers. Like, sure, sometimes a revelation, and like, it's also like people who like love the theater going experience where you see it in a open public where people were just like all having the same, realization at the same time and how they deal with it. Like, that's the fun of those types of revelations. But with video games and like with video game adaptations, like, I mean, it's just not as heavy. With Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, that's just because I had, that's really when like video game theory videos started to become very tailor-made to specific series. Was like post Breath of the Wild, because we had all this time between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and so that was like where I was like, please respect the spoilers. Like, I didn't know anything about it going in, and it was such a good experience for me just to like have these moments and be like, holy shit, like the what. The what? Like,
there's some very good ones in that game.
Yeah.
So,
but
for
this, I'm
for
like,
Fox in Space,
just pour it all over me, man.
Basically, what I'll do is I'll condense some big beats from this, 3 or 4 hour live stream that I recall down to some basics. So, all right, from here on, spoiler country. If you don't want it, patreon.com/campvideogames. Come back for more.
Hell yeah, bro.
And we'll see you next time. Everybody else, okay. So, I don't remember the exact kind of order all these things happen, but episode 3 is we get Where'd Wolf Go? And that's the scene he was like actively kind of like working on and showing like there's a lot of work done already on this.
So after Wolf abandons Farah and Fox,
he goes to the planet where he meets Leon, the lizard guy. And so
he's
again,
like French in the games. He's like, I am Leon.
Yeah, and his treatment of them for the show is similar to I don't think you've seen Barry on HBO, have you?
Is that the dog guy?
No, Barry's the show where Bill Hader.
I love Bill Hader.
Is an assassin who wants to leave his old life and become an actor.
Okay.
And there's this tie-in with this Chechen gang that like they're just like comic relief sort of. In some ways, but they're also like a serious, like rough and tumble gang that runs some shit in LA or whatever. Like from what I could see in the live stream, it seemed like that's kind of the vibe of the planet where he meets Leon the lizard and like this gang of lizard people that Wolf meets. And so it's like, that's kind of like, so it's going to show like kind of the pairing up of some of the Star Wolf. And then there's going to be a scene that explains how James actually dies sort of on accident. There's like a misfire in Andros's office or something.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then they and all of this is like taking place in the same night, basically.
Yeah.
Like the same, like, so it's a continuation of episode 2.
Yeah.
And then it will show like back on Corneria. Somehow, I forget the details of how, but like Peppy comes back, connects with Fox.
Yeah, Peppy was allowed to leave Venom.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he had to like make a run for it. I feel like they were like, we're keeping James, but like this isn't the beginning of the war yet.
Yeah.
This is just like some Cold War shit where it's like, we're keeping your spy, but you can have this one back.
Yeah, so it's like Peppy, I think, just comes back, goes straight to Fox, and
You're becoming just like your father.
I don't know if I forget the exact details of how, but somehow throughout that night, and then it's like, you know, Slippy's dad was the scientist
Yeah.
that they had to free.
Yeah, that's
so,
Beltino Toad.
So somehow Beltino gets Slippy together with him, and they run into Falco and his family.
Yes.
And there's going to be a scene of just like the 4 members of Star Fox awkwardly meeting that night
Star Fox
for the
babies?
first time. Yeah.
Oh, Star Fox babies.
And then fade back to the
10
current
years in the future
story from episode 1.
where Fox is imprisoned on Venom.
Yeah.
And
So-
let's see, Falco was just looking for him, right? Falco found his ship where he got shot down by Wolf, and Slippy and Peppy were just doing support on that, I think.
So that was like in this live stream, Gafford was sort of like, this is as far as I'm going to spoil. This is
Yeah.
the remainder of the prequel section.
That's
It's
awesome.
going to end with the 4 characters meeting for the first time, kind of at the end of this night and today prequel story
That's
we just told.
Genius.
Yeah.
I'm such a fan. I am such a fan. I'm so excited. And I think what Gafford's doing is very, very smart, where he's not giving his channel these dead spaces of content stagnancy, right? Like he's continually keeping his massive Patreon subscription list. Like we're watching the credits right now. It looks like a Marvel movie of people who worked on the visual effects, right? It's just like wall to wall, like smallest font, like all these names. It's incredible. Like I can only hope that Camp Video Games gets a fraction of those numbers. But
Also, shouts out to the person who commented on our most recently published episode that said, "You deserve way more followers."
yeah, that actually really made my day. Like I'm not even joking. Like if someone tells me that they listened to a episode, it makes me happy. Like
Yeah.
we are not doing this for any business reasons.
Yeah,
This
this is just
passion
how we
project.
hang out.
Yes. It's just like it's a joy to be able to talk about these types of properties with the attention to detail, and like with Josh and I both being, you know, media veterans, like we know how to talk about things without just being like it's good, it's bad.
I know this game.
Yes. And that's really important to me to like have this kind of outlet.
Yeah.
So it's very nice.
Are you ready for the final spoiler?
Yes.
Episode 3 will be the final episode.
Yeah, I always assumed it was a 3-parter.
Yeah.
Like I think that was stated at some point before too.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't ask for more, honestly.
Yeah.
Like
He didn't say how long he intends it to be. He just said it should be out within 3 years. It's going to be the final episode. I'm kind of ready to be done with this property.
I believe him. This is like, imagine the thousands of hours that he's worked on this. Like, not even joking. Like this has been like, yeah, just so impressive. And also like, I wish Star Wars would take a note from this. Like, there's not much else to do with this like world and story.
Oh my God, dude.
Like, just let it be a condensed little thing. Like, we don't need. I mean, I would love Star Fox babies, but we don't need baby. You know, it's like, oh, and then we meet. You know, I mean, we've already met most of the major players at this point.
I saw a clip from that Ahsoka show who was a Jedi that was in like 2 scenes of Attack of the Clones or whatever, right?
And she was also a prominent figure in the Clone Wars cartoon, I believe. Which I never.
People tell me it was good, and it was before the Disneyfication of everything.
Yeah,
but like
that was
I
Jenny
don't care.
Tarkovsky too, wasn't it? I think it was the same guy who did like Samurai Jack and Dexter's Lab.
Oh yeah. The animation style is pretty decent, but like, I saw a clip from it, and like even in Final Cut, you know, like the actors look fucking bored. Like it's like some scene where they're fighting off. It's like they're fighting off zombie stormtroopers or some shit, and the actors just like weaving their lightsabers back and forth. They just look bored. They look dead eyed. There's like, okay, I'm getting my paycheck. Who fucking cares?
Zombie stormtroopers. They are literally just like, I think that like, what's her name? Kathleen. The woman in charge of Disney
Luke's Entertainment,
Star Wars,
whatever lady. Yeah.
I think she's literally just like trolling like DeviantArt, looking for like inspiration of Star Wars stuff. Like, because the zombie stormtrooper shit that was played out like 10 years ago,
right?
Like that was like on like an airbrush T-shirt or something. It's that's
and like people commenting on it were sort of pointing out like, aren't these like beam sabers capable of just slicing through bodies? Like, if you're really in danger, why wouldn't you just run through and just slice them all? It's like, because it's fucking Disney. We can't show real violence, you know? Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah. There's one of my favorite YouTube channels, Red Letter Media. One of the I guess I'll call him a critic on that channel. His like summary of Star Wars, it like is just like it's not an interesting universe. Like outside of like the Skywalker family, like
no
trials and tribulations, there's nothing that interesting about it because everything is so like you can make any planet and have them do whatever you want, and there's no real limitation to it. But everything is so limited by it being Star Wars specifically that it's not like Pandora in Avatar or these things like where it's like I don't think people really want to live in a Star Wars universe like because it's a fucking war zone. Like I don't know. We're getting off track, but
to bring it back to Gafford's Star Fox universe, it's truly about what he's choosing to show and not show. And the fact that like there is no cash cow to be found here within legal intellectual property limits to just mine it of like, oh, what's going on in Catania? What's going on Fortuna? What's going on blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like he's using what's been established to build a little bit enough to create intrigue and desire to know more about a specific storyline and not just like be like, I don't know, here's a thing that was mentioned once. Can we mine that for money?
right.
Like there's like a true storytelling of showing what is important to the story I want to tell in this world.
Yeah.
And not just, like I said, just mine every asset that's ever been on screen for every last dime.
Well, and the other big advantage that A Fox in Space has over Star Wars is it's not made by a committee.
Yeah.
This is a guy's creative like goal, like is to make a intriguing adaptation of a very simple video game. And the fact that like, you know, I think in episode 1 we see a very brief dogfight between Wolf and Fox, but other than that, there's been no aerial combat in an adaptation of a game that is 100% aerial combat.
No extended action scenes.
Yeah, it's great. It's just you know, I can't wait to talk about episode 3 a couple of years from now, and I will absolutely play another Star Fox game to pair with it when that happens.
Sure. If there's one worth playing, we'll find it.
Oh, there's you know, some that maybe not worth playing is the word, but worth discussing, you know? Because it's here at Kid Video Games, we don't just play games that we love and that we've got a huge history with. We're kind of like testing the water and seeing like what was worth adapting from this. But yeah, you know, just talking back again, like we are in the golden age of video game adaptations to TV and film right now, and hopefully that means it'll be a golden age for Camp Video Games. And if you give us a follow,
Camp Video Games forever.
Give us a like, a subscribe, send me an email, campvideogames@gmail.com. I read every single email. I don't respond to them all, but I read them. And yeah, check us out, homies. Always good hanging out with you, campers.
Do you think 3.5 hours discussing 50 minutes of fan-made content is enough?
No.
Okay.
We need more.
Well, then we'll be back for episode 3, like you said.
Yeah. Campers, I already said all the things I wanted to say. So the only other thing I want to say to you is thank you for listening.
Peace out.
If you'd like to write to us, Send a message to campvideogames@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram @campvideogames. If you want to become a real happy camper, you can support Camp Video Games on Patreon. For $5 a month, you'll be granted access to even more discussions about movie-based video games, game-based movies, full-length commentaries, playthroughs, and more. Whether you sign up or not, we're glad to have you here at Camp Video Games.